I got signed out. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatam vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakta bhavati nashtake krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadi Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. What was that? Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today's Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. We are discussing from second Canto, chapter number 6, one of the very, very important chapters. Let's begin with the story before I get into the discussion. It's a long chapter, so I'll have a little different way of presentation today. But let's begin our conversation today with the story. Let be the subject of story be I in that context. So on an average, I'm going to speak in approximations here right now. A 6 feet tall man is right now sitting in a 25-story building, and I'm right now present on the 18th floor of this building where I'm sitting right now. So if I go onto the ground floor, I am already insignificant in comparison to the height of this tower. Now, if I think a little further, I'm right now sitting in a place called as Hinjawadi, which is one subset of Pune city. Hinjawadi itself is big. It takes sometimes an hour to travel from one distance to another distance. What to speak of? Pune. And Pune is just one of the cities in the state of called as Maharashtra, which is huge, so huge, none of us would have traveled it left to right, north, south, east, west. We wouldn't have covered the distance, length and breadth of it. And that state called as Maharashtra is just one of the states among many states of the country that we know as Bharat or India, today called as India, which is huge land. I've spent almost 38 to 40 years of my life in this body so far. But I haven't seen India. What India I have seen? Forget about seeing India. I haven't seen Maharashtra. Forget about Maharashtra. I have not even visited Pune. I know very few places in Pune myself. Like that. Huh? Yeah, we went on YouTube. What's going on? This wasn't customized? So there is something somewhere else is live going on. Check on that. That link can be shared. So some link issue is there. You want to share the link back again on the give it to him so that he gets the link. I guess you didn't configure that. Fine. What we were talking about? Mm, yeah, we haven't seen Pune. What to speak of India? And this India as a country is one of the countries on the continent that we call as Asia, which is huge. Probably in this lifetime or many lifetimes, will not be able to cover the distance of Asia. And what to speak of rest of the world, where Asia is one of the continents. And now, when you size up this country, this planet Earth, in comparison to Mercury, Venus, we may be a little bigger in size. When it comes to Mars and Jupiter, we become very insignificant. Jupiter is humongous. And what to speak of the size, the sun and the moon, which are far, far, far greater. And these are some of the luminaries that we know and we can witness in this universe itself. This is just part of, we are talking about Bhumandala, actually, if you see, largely. So there are 14 planetary systems. There is no way we could ever measure the length and breadth or travel the length and breadth of this universe. And this whole universe have manifested from the Garbha of Mahavishnu. If you have been along with me or through with me with this mental description, now can you imagine how huge Mahavishnu would be? Garbhadaksha Vishnu. How huge Garbhadaksha Vishnu? This particular morning of this particular day of Brahma, third canto talks about when Brahma this particular morning woke up, and when he saw there was this whole deluge, flood everywhere, and he started climbing down. When he climbed down on the lotus stem, he couldn't figure out the length and breadth of from where this stem is coming out. And even after he performed tapa by the inspiration of the Lord, when he got the darshan of the Lord, yet Brahmaji, the personality with four heads, the transcendental personality in itself, or himself, he could not measure the length and breadth of Mahavishnu. And that Mahavishnu is lying in one of the bubbles which are manifesting from the breath of Karana Daksha Vishnu. If Brahmaji cannot estimate the length and breadth of Garbhadaksha Vishnu, where is a question of measuring anything about Mahavishnu or Karana Daksha Vishnu? Immeasurable. And the intelligent human being of Kali Yuga, not supposed to be intelligent, by birth foolish, but yet intelligent human being of Kali Yuga is trying to measure and trying to search out the absolute truth. And based on their profound, perfect senses that their parents have given to them, maybe they have got from monkeys, ultimately came from monkeys only, right? Credit goes to Darwin. They are trying to figure it out that God exists or not exists. Srila Prabhupada, 10th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 7th verse writes, very beautiful purport Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada says, everyone says God is great, but nobody knows the greatness of God. Chapter number 5, chapter number 6 of second canto is a chapter which should be read again and again for us to get some glimpse into the greatness of Lord. And that is what has been the discussion. So last week when we met, we talked about creation, primary creation that happens from Mahavishnu, from his breath, universe manifests, and in that universe he enters as Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and then Brahmaji takes birth, the 14 planetary system gets manifested, and then Garbhadaksha Vishnu further manifests himself as Kshirodaksha Vishnu, as Paramatma. And then the life forms provided with the bodies, etc., like that. That was a huge subject that we tried to discuss last time. Now coming to chapter 6, if in case you have attended previous session, it will make sense, because that is what the discussion is in this chapter 6. Around 46 verses in chapter 6, And the first 17 verses talks about how different senses got manifested. For example, it's interesting when I read for the first time, I was like, wow, that's so interesting, huh? I mean, why do we all have eyes? Why do we all have nose? Why do we all have mouth? Why? What's the reason for it? And here the sixth chapter says, because Virat Purush wanted to see, got the eyes. Virat Purush wanted to speak, got the mouth. Virat Purush wanted to smell, got the nose. Virat Purush wanted to hear, got the ears. Like that, all that have manifested for all the living entities. Monkeys have eyes, everyone have eyes. Interestingly. So the Lord wanted to see, the Virat Purush wanted to see, like that has been described here, how different senses came up. And then question comes in this chapter where while knowing the details of the material creation so huge, then somebody may wonder, oh really? Is there anything else beyond this? And then Brahmaji says, Arey, what I'm telling you is just a trailer. Full movie is outside of this material world. Ekapad, Tripad Vibhuti. Vibhuti means manifestation of potency. So Brahmaji talks about this world is nothing but Ekpad, 1/4 of the total creation, and 3/4 of the total creation exists outside of this material creation, of which we have no access. So who can get access to it? Only one who has got totally purified of all the contaminations. By the mercy of the Lord, they can return back to their original home. So that would be the second part of discussion. And then in the follow verses, there's a discussion on how Lord is a cause of everything. How Lord is the cause of everything, in the sense, again, we have discussed this last time, in our part of discussion about creation. Now, Lord is cause of everything. Even if Brahmaji's appeared, now Brahmaji has not gone through any Bachelor of Architect degree. It's not that he has any sort of understanding. Everything was provided by the Lord. He was trained by the Lord. The resources the material was provided by the Lord. That comes another discussion where Lord is the ultimate cause and Lord is the efficient cause also. If Brahmaji is able to do anything, externally it may look Brahmaji is doing, but behind that also it is Lord's mercy. Very interesting and beautiful. Therefore, we were making a point last time, we are nothing but a mercy case. The devotees understand this, non-devotees do not understand. What's the difference? That's the difference. Devotees understand we are fully a mercy case, whereas non-devotees fail to understand that. And then comes another very, very important discussion from verse number 34 to literally 46, where in the first few verses, verse number 34 to verse number 38, Brahmaji raises his hand and says, I surrender. Hey Narada, nobody can know the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What I have shared with you is just a figment of some of his vibhutis and opulences. His opulences, his energies, his potencies are unlimited. And then Brahmaji says, now it's very interesting, Brahmaji, before he begins to say, Brahmaji says, hey Narada, don't doubt what I'm telling you. Why? Because my senses and my mind never gets contaminated. I am not like you. Not like you means I'm not like Jiva. I am born from the body of the Lord. So my senses, my mind are literally infallible in that sense. So whatever I have told you is a fact, but know for sure, despite of all these qualifications, I have perfected austerities, I have perfected yoga siddhis. I am perfect being in this world. And I am the Prajapati of all. From me, all the creations have come into manifestation. Yet this Brahma declares boldly that this Brahma cannot know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then comes a very beautiful discussion. Sometimes we might get discouraged. अरे ब्रह्मा जी कह रहे हैं भाई, अपना तो है ही क्या? किस खेत की मूली है? भगवान को जानेंगे. So thoughts can come like this. And then Brahmaji says, the discussion comes, as Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, only I can be known by bhakti. The point here is, again, it shows our helpless condition. We are nothing but a mercy case. Brahmaji is saying that we cannot know the Supreme Personality Godhead. If he cannot know, what others can know. We are part and parcel, have come into this world through his mercy. Brahmaji has created all these 8.4 million bodies like that. So Brahmaji says he cannot. So what we can? So our ability to understand God depends on the mercy of God. Our ability to understand Krishna how much we know Krishna depends on the mercy of Krishna on us. And how we receive mercy of Krishna is how much we are truthful to our vows and commitments that we have taken in front of such a spiritual master, or to the vows we have taken towards disciplic line, like that. And finally, the last few verses talks about the three Vishnus, Mahavishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu. Particularly, the last few verses talks about Mahavishnu. So those of you who have heard the previous session will have a little better understanding. Fine, this is a little bit of quick synopsis of this chapter. Let's begin with our discussion. Can I have somebody to join me as a partner to read out the shlokas translation? Because the first 17 verses we'll kind of just read out what is going on. I'm not going to talk about in details of it. We'll focus our attention more from verse number 18. If otherwise, we can just sum it up what's happening in the first 17 verses. Okay, let's read the first translation. Wait a second. There's a little bit disturbance going on here. Too many messages. Okay, let me just read out the text number 1, and then I'll give you the summary of the first 17 verses. Hare Krishna. So, text number 1, you're not inform him. Lord Brahma said, the mouth of the Virat Purush, universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns. His tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies of offering to the demigods of forefathers and the general mass of people. In other words, these verses that are being discussed here says that senses are being generated from the Lord. To whom does the senses belongs? Our ability to see has come from Krishna. Our ability to taste has come from Krishna. Our ability to hear has come from Krishna. If everything belongs to Krishna, for example, if a company where you're working gives you a car, gives you a smartphone to use, for what purpose it is meant for? Company's interest, your personal interest. Company gives you a credit card to swipe when you go on business tour. For what purpose? Is for your purpose or company's interest? And if you don't use in company's interest, do you agree the company has all the right to take those facilities away from you? That's the whole point. All these senses are nothing but the gift of the Lord. They are created by the Lord. They're manifested from Him. Now, if we don't use it in His service, we become a culprit or not? We become a thief. That is what is the discussion going on, like that is being described here. Then, okay, who's going to read along with me? Somebody raise your hand. Text number 2 onward, we can still read. Okay, Mother Indu Radhika, please go ahead. Text number 2 translation. Please read out.
Okay. His 2 nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance.
So, as I was making a point, have you ever wondered, for example, if you want to make a model, a working model, we are also a working model. Before any working model, there's a prototype generated. Now, if you go to a sculptor who makes deities, for example, we have deities in the temple. Before those deities, manifest in the way we have it, there is a particular prototype created. On that prototype, based on that, the deities or any sculpture is done. So my question is, all of us have more or less same kind of senses. What was the first prototype? Now, of course, somebody must have designed it. This is a very fundamental point. Now, somebody must have designed it. Now, must have created a prototype. So that prototype, you want to consider, that is called as Virat Purush. What is that prototype? Virat Purush. Well, all that in this world after coming, when this world came into existence, the first thing happened was Virat Purush. And senses did not manifest. Senses, what we saw last time as, from Mahatattva, then Mahatattva to Ahankar, and for Ahankar with the Sattva, Rajatama, and then you had senses and sense objects and Devatas like that. What you saw were present in their raw state. But when the Virat Purush wanted to see, then the senses manifested like that. That is what. So what's the first prototype for us? For all is Virat Purusha. Text number 3, translation, go ahead. Oh, you're muted. Unmute.
Sorry. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas, and his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound.
So nothing is hidden from the Lord. He can see everything, he can hear everything. He can see and hear from outside and from within. From within, as Paramatma, he sees and hear everything. And from outside, he sees everything through sun and moon. Sun and moon are the two eyes of Virat Purusha. And he hears from all sides. He's present everywhere. Push, he hears. Externally, how softly you might speak. And what to speak, when you're having a mind talk. So therefore, Prabhupada said, you can never cheat Krishna. He is the best of the best, cannot be cheated. How can you cheat somebody? If somebody knows all your secrets or what you're planning, how you're planning to cheat him, can you cheat him? It's not possible. So if you speak as softly as possible, still he would hear. If you don't speak, if you keep the secret within you, still he hears. Nittai Gaur Haribol. Charo tarah se pitai. That's the point here. Text number 4. Translation, please.
His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice.
Next.
The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores.
Can you visualize what kind of a sparkling form of Virat Purush? So his heads, the clouds are manifesting from the head. There's a whole clouds, and his nails are sparkling. So it's like any standard superhero movies these days. You say, na, from the hands chingari is coming out. All that. This is nothing but they have copy pasted Virat Purush form only. All right, go ahead. Marvel Studio, I guess. They are the one who produce all these superhero movies these days. Where were we? Text number 4 we read.
6, 6, Prabhu.
Yeah, 6.
5 we read. The Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass.
So these are some very important purports. It's a big chapter. It's not possible to go through in 1 hour, ever. So I'm not going to, but just to give you a little synopsis. So it is mentioned that how Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and also protects all the leaders or gives the strength to the leaders. So Papa talks about this only, that, we are unnecessarily struggling. Here it is very clearly mentioned that the origin of powers is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. We are all but nothing but part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why are we so much struggling for existence? If everything has come from the Lord, everything belongs to the Lord, that's Supreme Personality of God. Can you imagine now if you pray to Mahavishnu, can he not fulfill your desire? What limits him to fulfill or provide anything to us? Think about Garbhodaksha Vishnu. I mean, what limits him? What factors bind him that he cannot fulfill or provide for us? He can do anything when he can create the whole universe about it. That is what. So Prabhupada says the action of intelligent man is to surrender to the Lord. Next, text number 7.
Thus the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear.
Now comes a very, very important verse. Mother, I'll read out that verse. I'll come back to you in a minute. All right. I'm going to go into a little bit of, you can call it a little bit of brahmachari class now, whatever it is. But it's a very important discussion. Apam viryasya sargasya prajanyasya prajapati pumsa shishna upastastu prajati ananda nirvrati. So far, if you think what we have discussed is everything have manifested from the Lord, Virat Purusha is a prototype for all our existence. Now, the greatest pleasure in this world that binds a living entity is sex pleasure. Now, sex pleasure. My ability to see, my ability to hear, my ability to smell, everything has come from the Lord. Is my ability to enjoy sex is also coming from the Lord? Yes, that is also coming from Lord. Now, how is it coming from the Lord? So here, this was mentioned. Let me read the translation. From the Lord's genitals originate water, semen, generatives, rains, and the procreators. His genitals are the cause of a pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting. Very interestingly, this whole world has been designed. And if you a little bit analyze it, it very clearly indicates this world has been designed only for reformation, not for enjoyment. Somebody says, I want to enjoy sex life to the fullest, to my ability. Now, you cannot enjoy. Medically, scientifically, the enjoyment doesn't last more than 5-10 minutes. You know, there is no human capacity that you can go and enjoy for hours together. First thing is very exhausting because you're losing your vital energy. So it's just a 5-10 minutes of thing. Maybe you might have spent a day or week together and daydreaming that how much fun you will have it, but the fun doesn't last for more than 5 to 10 minutes. Like that, medically and scientifically spoken about this. So first thing is this. Now, even if you enjoy, I would want to have this 5 to 10 minutes of enjoyment 10 times in a day. You cannot, your body cannot sustain because you're losing out your vital energy. Now, the semen or shukra, which is defined to be in Sanskrit, is the most potent condensed form of your energy, which is meant to be preserved, conserved, and not disseminated, not thrown out of the body. If you throw out of the body, then you become weak. You throw out of the body, then you're reducing lifespan. Interesting, right? So here you have a desire to enjoy. And here you have the greatest pleasure. Here you have the opportunity. But the you engage into it, you reduce your lifespan. You cannot unlimitedly engage into it. Neither you can have unlimited time duration around it, neither your body can provide for it. Now, another thing, the moment you engage into it, there is a byproduct. The moment you engage into it, there's a byproduct. And to get that byproduct is a very painful situation. Prabhupada explains in the purport that how begetting a child is a very, very painful situation for a mother. Now, the irony, now on top of it, the mother has gone through that pain of begetting a child for 9 months and then giving a birth. The pain is not for 9 months. The pain actually begins after the birth. That was a trailer about what is about to happen. Last evening we were talking about the four kind of sons. Shatru Bandha, then Rinanu Bandha, then Udasin Bandha, and then Sevak Bandha. मतलब क्या है बंदा बंधु जो भी कहना चाहे शत्रु बंधु that fellow who was enemy in your previous life but couldn't take revenge has come to you as your son. हरि बोल हो गया बेड़ा पार. दूसरा ऋणानु बंधु, you had taken a loan from somebody but you were trying to be too smart, didn't pay him and passed away beforehand. So don't worry, according to law of karma, that fellow has come as your son now, and he will take the loan that you took from him in the previous life with compound interest, not simple interest, with compound interest. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Tisra, Udasin, in disciplic succession in Jad Bharat. Nothing to do. Who is mother, who is father, who is brother, who is sister, nothing to do. Nothing got to do. And the fourth is Sevak Bandhu or Sevak Putra. So if you see, your probability to get a good son is only 1/4. 75% chances failed. So 9 months is one kind of a struggle. And then the struggle that actually happened after 9 months is actual another struggle. So Prabhupada is making a point here and elsewhere in the purpose. Isn't that an amazing irony? Everyone has gone through. It's like 1 rupee circus. You all know the story of 1 rupee circus, Bhakti Siddhanta struggle. We see in the whole world, everyone is suffering. And if somebody wants to unlimitedly engage with unlimited number of women, then there is AIDS. Then there are sexual diseases. So what pleasure are you hankering after? Well, is that a pleasure or a suffering? Now, how many of you say, okay, with this much we have given a presentation, how many of you say, actually, it's a suffering? How many of you would say, it's a suffering? Let's take a vote on it. This whole act of union, male and female union, actually looks like a suffering. 9 months of pregnancy and then rest of your life, handle that child, how he or she turns out to be. And the pleasure doesn't, like as a medical scientist, doesn't last for more than 5 to 10 minutes. That's the ability of a man, maybe lesser than that. So how many of you say it's actually a suffering? Raise your hand. हाँ, सोच समझ के, मैं कुछ बोलने वाला हूँ इसके बाद. Give your word thoughtfully. Okay, raise your hand again. I want to see whoever had raised their hand. Those who are sitting here. Okay, those who are not raised their hand, the proof is that's the power of material energy, bewilderment energy. Despite hearing this presentation, they're still so bewildered they think it's a pleasure. है ना? So Prabhupada says, here comes the material energy. This material energy is called illusory energy. I'm repeating Prabhupada's statement. Prabhupada says, a mother goes through first pregnancy, goes through so much pain, labor pain they call it, right? Labor happiness nahi hota. What is that word? Labor pain. It's not labor happiness, labor pain. Yet she has another child, third child, fourth child, whatnot. And today we have, unfortunately, artificial means of engaging into this activity. Point here is the material nature, the material energy, the illusory energy, again and again covers the intelligence, again and again covers the intelligence, again and again covers the intelligence. We suffer, we forget. How many of you, okay, sex life is one example. How many of you remember certain incidents in your life? You've gone through a suffering and you realize, I should not do it. And after 1 month or 2 months, you still did it, thinking that is going to give me pleasure. Raise your hands. 200%? Agreed upon it? So it's a very, very, very pitiable situation of our life. We have been told, we have been taught, not I'm blaming this world, the education system, but the way the system is designed, sex pleasure is presented as the best of the happiness in this world, which has inherent sufferings in it. And the pleasure is also not long lasting. Second thing, even if I don't want to, even if I understand this is suffering, on top of it, Maya Devi is sitting, which keeps on forgetting me, which keeps on giving me this forgetfulness, how it is a suffering. Now tell me, is there any way out of suffering? Yes. Devi Shagunamai Mama Maya Duratya. Mamevaya Prapadante Maya Metam Tanantite. There is only one way. There is only one way. We take shelter of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Okay, all said and done, fine. Now somebody may ask, Prabhu, where is the pleasure? Where is the pleasure? We discussed about the psychology of happiness recently, right? How many of you remember psychology of happiness? I was discussing 11th Canto. Okay, what is the psychology of happiness? Okay, let me ask, maybe this was not the forum, let me ask all of you. How many of you would agree if you have gone for Sunday feast, hypothetically, I'm not saying you do it, but hypothetically put yourself into the situation. You have gone for a Sunday feast program in ISKCON temple, and for months together, for a long time, you have not eaten your favorite sweet. Let's say rabdi, your favorite sweet, rabdi. And you go to the temple, the program is about to begin, and you get to know, आज तो लंच में रबड़ी मिलेगी, आज तो लंच में रबड़ी मिलेगी. Now, how many of you can really concentrate on the class? और your mind will be, आज तो रबड़ी मिलेगी, आज तो रबड़ी मिलेगी. 6 महीने से रबड़ी नहीं खाई. How many of you say your mind will be again thinking रबड़ी रबड़ी? And the moment speaker starts the class, you're looking at the watch. कब खत्म करेगा? बदमाश खत्म ही नहीं कर रहा. And the moment his time limits goes beyond even a minute or two, you begin to look, where is the temple president? Nobody's telling him to stop the class. How many have had that experience? I mean, even if not, how many of you say this would be our experience? Yes or no? Just giving this, okay? Regardless of you are in very advanced devotee or not, but I'm talking as long as you're on the modes of material nature, this would be the reaction. This is called a psychology of happiness. Why? We have got an intense expectation of satisfaction that will derive from eating rabdi, which never comes. It's only an intense expectation, which is the game of the mind. It is a dream of the mind. It is a situation created by the mind. Again, I repeat, what is the psychology of happiness? It is an intense expectation of satisfaction that I wish to derive from that object. Now imagine, you have got nice big bowl of rabdi. In the beginning, you'll be very happy. Again, I'm cutting short of this whole example, making it very simple. Imagine if now, after eating one big bowl of rabdi, you're given half liter rabdi more. How many will be able to eat? Now you'll feel like puking. So what is that satisfaction gone? Where is the satisfaction gone? That is called as happiness. Anything you want to drive happiness in this world ultimately is frustration only. Even if you want to engage in sex pleasure unlimitedly, it will become a frustrating experience. It will be a frustrating experience, just like eating rabdi unlimitedly. You're getting a point? So now my question comes here. Very beautiful. I really like this. I never thought it, but Prabhupada mentions here. Where does this happiness lies? So we spoke of psychology of happiness in the sense it is an intense expectation of satisfaction with that never comes. इसलिए ये दिल मांगे mood. The hankering always goes on. He thinks, oh, maybe not this time in Rabadi, maybe next time I'll get that happiness. Maybe not in this time, another time. Now, think about it, where does the happiness lies? Now, talking about the sex life, because this is the subject matter of this verse, Prabhupada says, the pleasure does not lies in another's body, the pleasure lies within your own body. The pleasure producing substance, Lord have invested within your own genitals. It is not in the genital of another person. You want to read out the purport? Imagine, this is what you're going to see. I can read it out. The genitals and the pleasure of begetting counteract the distresses of family encumbrances. One would cease to generate. Prabhupada says, one would cease to generate altogether if they were not by the grace of the Lord a coating, a pleasure-giving substance on the surface of the generative organs. This substance gives a pleasure so intense that it counteracts fully the distress of a family encumbrances. A person is so captivated, Maya Devi, by this pleasure-giving substance that he is not satisfied by begetting a single child, but increases the number of children with great risk in regard to maintaining them, simply for this pleasure-giving substance. Now, Prabhupada says, this pleasure-giving substance is not false. However, because it originates from the transcendental body of the Lord, in other words, the pleasure-giving substance is a reality, but it has taken on an aspect of pervertedness on account of material contamination. And then Prabhupada, in the material world, sex life is a cause of many distresses on account of material contact. Very deep point. It's a verse to be discussed at length. I can't focus too much on one verse as of now as part of a study work. Sex life is a cause of many distresses on account of material contact. वो कौन है हमारे पुणे में जो बाबा जी रहे हैं, नाम नहीं लेंगे, पब्लिक फोरम है, समझ गए आप लोग. यहाँ पे उनका आश्रम रहा है, who died in America while in a jail. So that gentleman said, enjoy, after enjoying, you'll become frustrated, then the desire will go away. Even that gentleman, I have read some books from him long ago, even that gentleman said, the sex life is abominable. That gentleman said, that sadhu said, or what, I don't think we should call him a sadhu, let's call him a gentleman only. I don't think so. Gentleman is also a good word, but let's call him a man only, whatever you want to call him. Either way, that person said, sex life is abominable. He says, I quote, he said, sex life begins at the level of passion, then it goes to the level of ignorance. It's an act of violence. These are his words. He said it's an act of violence. And the enjoyment is not on the physical contact. Enjoyment is on the sense of at the level of mind, where the one person thinks I'm able to control another person. Very, very, so factual is a subject matter, as I said, to discuss, but that's the point. Anyways, so in the material world, sex life is the cause of many distresses on account of material contact. Therefore, the sex life in the material world should not be encouraged beyond the necessity. Now, I hope you understand why there are this whole Garbhadan Samskara and everything. We have also discussed Yuktahara. Yoga means regulated. If you want to practice yoga life means yogo bhavati sadhuka, to become freed from all the miseries, then it has to be regulated. Why regulated? If you're playing a football, imagine there is no boundary. If there is no boundary playing a football, how many of you agree after half an hour, the goal post will not be visible? Yes? If there's no boundary to football stadium, the ball would have gone to different part of the city. And after half an hour, the goal post will not be visible. Similarly, if you don't have the boundary, which means regulations governing our life, the goal post of our life, which is happiness that we're hankering for, we'll never get it. We will never get that. That's the reason we are struggling in this life to get happiness. The goal post itself will go missing if there is no regulations. The regulations given in the Vedic scriptures actually, brings us closer, gives an opportunity for us to access happiness. That's the point here. Prabhupada writes further in the purport, the children, This potency should be used for the purpose of creating Krishna conscious children. And then Prabhupada concludes the purport. The degraded form of family restriction by use of contraceptives, etc., is the grossest type of material contamination. Materialists who use these devices want to fully utilize the pleasure potency of the coating on the genitals by artificial means without knowing its spiritual importance. And without knowing of spiritual values, the less intelligent man tries to utilize only the material sense pleasure of the genitals. Maybe let me just make one more point. I know I'm a little bit spending too much time on this verse. Very important. This is the important subject matter because we are stuck here actually before we can even think of meditating on the Lord. How many of you have ever had a thought, Dekho to jara, karmi, kitna khush hai. Look at that non-devotee. Seems to be so happy. And me, Hare Krishna, oh, khatam hi nahi hua. My 16 rounds have not got over. And look at this non-devotee, seems to be so happy. And these fellows, Hare Krishna wala gave me a praloban, gave me an offer. If I chant Hare Krishna, I'll become happy. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, happiness is missing. That fellow is roaming around with girlfriend. Look at the smiling face of each other. How many of you had, of course, I mean, if not this, something similar to this, maybe somebody has got a bigger car, somebody has got a bigger house. How many of you had that? I'm not saying you're having it now. Maybe in the history you had it. How many of you have ever had this thought crossing your mind? Raise your hands.
Yeah.
Some of them are by default raising 2 hands. Prabhuji, 100%. Meri to sthiti aisi hai. Okay, now I want to make a point. If you have the ability to digest it. Now, what is their happiness? Actually, their happiness is coming from sense contact with a material object, which is nothing but suffering. Their attempt to enjoy a sense object is based out of inherent frustration that they're undergoing. Let me repeat that. Their all happiness is derived from the sense objects. So all their attempts to enjoy the sense objects are driven by inherent frustration that they're experiencing in their life. Is that making sense? The more frustrated the person you see outside smiling, be assured to that degree he's frustrated in his life because he's trying to exploit the sense object more and more, thinking that I'll be happy. Yes or no? The people moving around in the restaurant. Now, why people are moving around the restaurant? Mataji ko cooking nahi aati. Hai na? Frustration, right? The lady doesn't know cooking or the man doesn't know cooking. Therefore, they're going and eating in the restaurant. Why would you go and eat in the restaurant if you know good cooking? If a person in the house can cook nicely, why would they go to a restaurant? Now people go and watch movie. The life is so miserable that they have to forget their misery by paying 500 rupees for 2 hours. And then they come and regret. It was a flop movie. Then they come and doubly regret. I purchased misery for 500 rupees. And then they regret. See, the baseline is frustration. Now, why devotees are not engaging into it? Because by the practice of Krishna consciousness, that frustration is disappearing. To that degree, inherent frustration is disappearing. To that degree, your attraction for the material world will go away. Your desire to exploit this material world will go away. You will not have the desire. If you have the desire, it's because we have not yet established our relationship with the Lord. So don't think chanting Hare Krishna is like I'm going to have a, battisi wala smile. Karke main daat dikhata phirunga sab jagah. No. The chanting Hare Krishna spiritual life means satisfaction of heart. Not necessarily you have to be laughing out loudly and all that. It means happiness. It means, how many of you agree devotees have a bigger appetite than non-devotees? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Those who all conduct program, they know that devotees have bigger appetite. And the reason of bigger appetite is you're happy. How many of you have an experience? How many of you have experienced if you had a very tough day and you're mentally agitated? And even if the best of the food is kept in front of you, you cannot eat. So why non-devotees have poor appetite? I mean, when they see a plate, I remember once, this was back in my college days, when I was studying in Columbus, Ohio. One morning, I was having a prasadam. A guest came. So I was having a breakfast. Generally in ISKCON, breakfast is a breakhead program. We take such a heavy breakfast. So I was taking a breakfast. And I said, sir, can I get you some breakfast? He looked at my plate. And you, boy, ये क्या खा रहा है तू? I mean, my plate was really full. It was like, couple of Mount Govardhan was there. Not one Mount Govardhan, there were a couple of, and I was a college student, I had a good appetite and I was happy in my Krishna consciousness. He got so shocked. He says, Swamiji, he says, sir, I just take, little breakfast, chuno breakfast. मैंने कहा अपना ब्रेकफास्ट तो बड़ा प्लेट होता है बिल्कुल. And you see how much brahmacharis eat. You want to give Brahman bhojan, तो brahmachari को खिला के देखो. I'm just giving you some indication. I'm pretty sure all of you are very well aware of it. What does happiness means? What a satisfaction Krishna conscious means. You're happy in your situation. You're content in your situation. The more you're disturbed, the more you'll have the desire to enjoy, or rather say exploit the sense objects. So the people who are happy outside, there is no means anyone can be happy. Please read the purport of the invocation of Ishopanishad. Om Purnam Adha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. Prabhupada says all emptiness and loneliness is because of a missing relationship with the Supreme Personality Godhead. Hare Krishna. बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया इस पे. आगे चलते हैं. Okay, text number 9 onwards. Okay, who was our mother reading? Please go ahead, read out verse number 9 onwards.
O Narada, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating hole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc.
Continue.
The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains.
Okay.
The impersonal feature of the Lord is the abode of great oceans, and his belly is the resting place for the materiality, annihilated living entities. His heart is the abode of the subtle material bodies of living beings. Thus, it is known by the intelligent class of men. Also, the consciousness of that great personality is the abode of religious principles. Mine, yours, and those of the 4 bachelors, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanantana. That consciousness is also the abode of truth and transcendental knowledge. Beginning from me, Brahma, down to you and Bhava, Shiva, all the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, the demons, the nagas, the human beings, the birds, the beasts, as well as the reptiles, etc., and all phenomenal manifestation of the universes, namely the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the inhabitants of the different planetary systems, namely the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Yakshas, Rakshas, Bhutaganas, Uragas, Pashus, Pittas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and all other different varieties of living entities, including the birds, beasts, trees, and everything that be, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future, although he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches.
Okay.
The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his universal form, maintains everything in creation both internally and externally.
So this is a discussion so far about universal form, and from, as I said, the prototype, from whom has come all the different, senses and sensitivas like that. Senses actually have manifested. So now in the 18th verse, Brahmaji say, hey, Narada, don't think he's the Lord of this world. He's also the Lord of spiritual world. Text number 18, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immorality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narada, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person.
A very, very beautiful purport. I'm kind of frightened, still frightened when I read the purports. So I am not much in favor of rushing because these are such an important subject. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to complete this chapter. I hope you all are comfortable with this idea, and I'm going to take my little bit of time discussing it. because rushing through such an important chapter doesn't make sense. It's one of the most important chapters. So now I'm gonna, okay, is that okay? If you disagree, bear with me. If you agree, be happy. What can I do? I'm gonna go and a little bit relish this chapter for my own purification. Now, this is, I would say, market 10-star puppet. Very, very important puppet. Where is your, how will you read the puppet? Where is your mobile? You have to read it. We're gonna read it out. What are you sitting idle here like this? So, this purport addresses who gets to go back to Godhead, or who cannot go back to Godhead. Very profound purport. Okay, so let's take a look at it. 1 second. Okay, let's some of you read out. Would anyone else like to read it? The purport, and then I'll explain in between. Okay, Mother Devika, your hand is up, and then Krishna Chandra Prabhu. Go ahead, Mother Devika.
Hare Krishna. The
You got to be a
glories
little
of
louder.
the Lord.
Yeah, go ahead.
The glories of the Lord in the transcendental 75% of the Lord's internal potency are stated in the Padma Puran, Uttarakhand. It is said there that those planets in the spiritual sky, which comprises the 75% expansion of the internal potency of the Lord, are far, far greater than those planets in the total universes composed of the external potency of the Lord. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the total universes and the external potency of the Lord are compared to a bucket full of mustard seeds. One mustard seed is calculated to be a universe itself. In one
All
of the
right.
universes,
So yeah, so far in this whole paragraph, the discussion would be about Ekapad, Tripad Vibhuti, which will be discussed in the upcoming verses. So huge is the creation. The material universe itself is so huge that one universe is compared to a mustard seed. That is what is being talked about. And the planets in the spiritual world are 3 times of what is in the material universe. If you go a few lines down, you will see the conception of spiritual bliss, Brahmananda. If you find it a little below, start reading from there. Just 3-4 lines below.
yes, the conception of spiritual bliss, Brahmanand, is fully present in those planets. Each of them is eternal, indestructible, and free from all kinds of inebrities experienced in the material world. Each of them is self-illuminating and more powerfully dazzling than, if we can imagine, the total sunshine of millions of mundane suns. The inhabitants of those planets are liberated from birth, death, old age, and diseases, and
So
have full
if
knowledge of
if
everything.
if ever you have to speak on what is a spiritual world, please mark this puppet. What we are reading right now are the qualities in one single purport. Prabhupada have very clearly mentioned it. We'll discuss. This is my subject matter for upcoming Sunday evening cosmic travel session. Also, it will be based on this purport only, largely elaboration. So here, Natad Bhasate Suryo Nashashanka na Pavaka. Right, that's the point is mentioned. So that place. Now, maybe if I can just make 1 or 2 more points on the subject matter of spiritual world here. We all have heard of Vedic aphorism. Asatoma Satagamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityum Va Mritam Gamaya. So Asat to Sat is our journey. From Tamas to Jyotir is our journey. From Mrityu to deathlessness is our journey. Where is that journey takes us? Where is that place? The question that should arise after this phrase is, where is that place which is deathlessness, place of light, place of, what is that? Tamasoma, Jyotir, eternity. Where is that place? A place of eternal happiness like that. That is called as spiritual world. Now, what is the relationship between the spiritual world and material world, if you want to understand that? The material world, Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse number 1. Lord Shri Krishna defines the relationship between material world and spiritual world. Udvamulam adhashakam. Bhagavan कहते हैं, Lord Shri Krishna says, hey Arjuna, there is a banyan tree, Ashwatha. There is a banyan tree that has its roots upwards and branches downwards. Have you seen that? Have you seen that? Where have you seen that? In the reflection. If there is a tree at the bank of a river, then you will see that. It looked like branches downwards. So, very interesting analogy. Now, what it means, this material world is nothing but a reflection of spiritual world. I hope you get this point. If this point gets clear now, we'll understand what spiritual relationship is. So material world is nothing but reflection of spiritual world. Asatoma Satagamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityumva Amritam Gamaya. So you may say, Prabhuji, I don't believe in spiritual world. Agree. But at least you know material world is a place of darkness. How many of you agree? What is evidence? You need a sun and moonshine. Yes? Tamasoma is a place of death. How many of you agree? So we have an experience of a place where is tamas, where is asat, where is mrityum. And then how do you know about a place which is beyond all this thing? That, well, it's not a subject matter of research. It's a subject matter of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge says that place exists. So whatever is the highest pleasure in the spiritual world becomes, in other words, the perverted pleasure in this world, right? So the relationship between Krishna and gopis, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself established, is the highest relationship. The highest rasa is Madhurya rasa. And that the rasa dance is considered to be the epitome of that relationship. That highest rasa becomes the lowest rasa in this world. Right? Because Krishna is dancing with the gopis who are not his wives. You know, there is Srila Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami talks about the two kinds of relationship: married relationship, conjugal affair. What is the word we call it? Parikya Swakya. So if you see, what is highest in the spiritual world is not the relationship of Krishna and Rukmini, the relationship of Radha and Krishna, their girlfriend, boyfriend. That is considered abominable in this world. Yes or no? So you're getting the point. So you have an experience of this world. With this, when you read scriptures, you can understand what is a spiritual world. Spiritual world is entirely opposite of it. So any pleasure here gives birth to suffering. It's nothing because of his perverted reflection. Therefore, Brahmaji says, Chintamani prakarasatma shukalpa vriksham. Now, agar aaj bhi aap Vrindavan jate, even if you visit Vrindavan, sometimes there is so much dust storm. You know, although it is a dust of Vrindavan, but for us it becomes obnoxious because when it goes over in nostrils and eyes and ears, it becomes very difficult. We get allergy. This is material world after all. But that same dust in spiritual world is Chintamani prakarasatma shukalpa vriksha. Now, you know, Chintamani, every scent particle is Chintamani. Now trees, there are all kind of trees. There are so many trees outside which do not bear fruit at all, right? They're called as sinful living entities. But what are the trees in the spiritual world? Kalpa vriksha. You go and ask for any desire, they'll fulfill all your desires. So it's a perverted reflection again. So Chintamani prakarasadmashu kalpa vriksha lakshavrateshu surabhi abhipalayantam. And there wanders a cow by the name of Surabhi. Not one, lakshavrateshu, hundreds and thousands and millions. What is the quality of Surabhi cow? She can give you unlimited amount of, not milk, that is a side product. Surabhi cow means who can fulfill all your desire. Who had a Surabhi cow in this material world? Who had Surabhi cow in this material world?
Vashishta Muni.
Yes, Vashishta Muni, isn't it? For that reason, the whole fight happened. And then also our Parasar, kya naam hai apna, the father of Parasar Muni, Jamdagni, he also had. That's the reason our kya naam hai, Sahastra, wo kya naam hai uska? Kartivi Arjun. Therefore, he had become so envious of Jamdagni also like that. You know, and when he came to attack, same thing will happen with Vashishta Muni. So fulfills all desires like that. And Lakshmi Sahastra Shata Sambrahma Sevyamanam. And who are the maid servants there? Lakshmi. You know, who are the maid servants there? Lakshmi. So you see the perverted reflection is entirely opposite. That is what it is. So this is called as inferential logic. We have not seen it, but we know this. Through this, we can understand what would be the nature of this world, and that's how our faith builds up. Mother Devika, where are you? Go ahead, read further. Unmute yourself.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, where was I? Yeah, the inhabitants of those planets are liberated from birth, death, old age, and diseases, and have full knowledge of everything. They are all godly and free from all sorts of material hankerings.
So you see the perversion? They are full of knowledge and we are born in ignorance. Now today, identity of an individual, you ask anyone, who are you? बहुत proudly अपना नाम बताता है. Now, if he thinks he's that name, think about it. Name giving ceremony generally happens on the 7th day. You can ask him a question, who were you on the 6th day of your birth? Your name was not given only, And after his birth, somebody told him, this is your mother, this is your father. Now, the child doesn't know who is his mother and father. If anyone tells him this is your mother and father, rest of his life he'll think he's your mother and father. Yes or no? So we're born in ignorance. And there, everyone, there's no birth, death, and old age, disease. Everyone knows everything. And they're all godly. Now, the godly species are so rare in this world, the demigods do not appear only. Largely demonic people. So they're all godly and free from all sorts of material hankerings. So the people in this world is Kankshati. They're always desiring. And those people are always free from, again, the reflection. Entirely opposite. Continue reading.
They have nothing to do there except to render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Narayan, who is the predominating deity of such Vaikuntha planets.
And again, opposite, people in this world want to become Vishnu. They want to become the controlling deity. But they're entirely fixed up in their spiritual nature, the eternal nature of serving. Again, Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam, perverted reflection. Continue.
Those liberated souls are engaged incessantly in singing songs mentioned in the Sam Ved, Vede Sangpad, Kramopanishader, Gayanti Yam Samaga. All of them are personifications of the 5 Upanishads. Tripad Vibhuti, or the 75% known as the internal potency of the Lord, is to be understood as the kingdom of God far beyond the material sky. And when we speak of Pad Vibhuti, or the 25% comprising his external energy, we should understand that this refers to the sphere of the material world. It is also said that in the Padma Puran, the kingdom of Tripad Vibhuti is transcendental, whereas the Pad Vibhuti is mundane. Tripad Vibhuti is eternal, whereas the Pad Vibhuti is transient. The Lord and his eternal servitors in the transcendental kingdom all have eternal forms, which are auspicious, infallible, spiritual, and eternally youthful. In other words, there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. That eternal land is full of transcendental enjoyment and full of beauty and bliss.
Hare Krishna. So, let me ask you. This is how I've been asking in my cosmic travel sessions these days. So, how many of you are attracted to this place? Raise your hands. How many of you are attracted to this place? So if you're attracted to this place, now question comes, how can I go there? So how many of you are desiring to go there? I'm kind of acting as a travel agent, bona fide travel agent. Okay. So all of us are ready? Now, if you have to travel, you have to pay the price. So how many of you are willing to pay the price? अरे पहले पूछो तो सही प्राइस क्या है? अरे इतना भरोसा ट्रैवल एजेंट पे, बिना प्राइस पूछे तूने हाथ खड़ा कर दिया. Or maybe not faith on the travel agent, maybe faith on the, somehow I have to go to that world. I'm willing to sell off everything in this world. So we have to pay the price. Now, what is that price have to be paid? Now, let's pay attention, okay? The very first price you have to pay is, you have to give up your desires for material enjoyment. Now, please raise hands. How many of you are still interested to go back to Godhead? You have to give up your desire for material enjoyment. You don't have to only give up material enjoyment, but stop desiring material enjoyment. How many of you now willing to pay the price? अभी लोग थोड़ा क्या हुआ, बहुत महंगा पड़ा. Very expensive ticket. Okay. Where are you, Mother Devika? Please read ahead.
This very fact is also corroborated in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the transcendental nature is described as Amrit. As described in the Vedas, Uttamritattvaseshana, the Supreme Lord, is the Lord of immortality, or in other words, the Lord is immortal, and because he is the Lord of immortality, he can award immortality to his devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita 8.16, the Lord also assures that whoever may go to his abode of immortality shall never return to this mortal land of threefold miseries. The Lord is not like the mundane Lord. The mundane master or lord never enjoys equally with his subordinates, nor is a mundane lord immortal, nor can he award immortality to his subordinate. The Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, can award all the qualities of his personality and to his devotees, including immortality and spiritual bliss. In the material world, there is always anxiety or fearfulness in the hearts of all living entities, but the Lord, being himself the supreme fearless, also awards the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. Mundane existence is itself a kind of fear because in all mundane bodies, the effects of birth, death, old age, and disease always keep a living being compact in fear. In the mundane world, there is always the influence of time, which changes things from one stage to another, and the living entity, originally being avikar or unchangeable, suffers a great deal on account of changes due to the influence of time.
Hare Krishna. Now, this is a situation of you're now going to act as like a property dealer. So I'm like kind of showing you property. Fearful, and you're always troubled by others, you're always exploited by others, place full of anxiety, you have disease, you have suffering and whatnot. And I'm willing to give you a place, a new accommodation, where there will be a fearlessness, you'll have a beautiful transcendental form, place of Satchit Ananda. So how many of you sounds interesting? Interesting to सबको होता है, और practice में बात अलग हो जाती है. So that's okay. Okay, continue. Okay, let's have Krishna Chandra. Please read ahead. The changing effects of eternal time, if you're able to follow with the puppets.
Yeah, the changing effects of eternal time are consequentially absent in the immortal kingdom of God, which should therefore be understood to have no influence of time, and therefore no fear whatsoever.
Very interesting. What induces fear? When you read about the 14 planetary systems in the 5th canto, is very interesting thing. How Maya acts for the lower planetary. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, that Patals, all Mahatal, Talatal, like that. Now, there are two major differences between the upper planet, upper means Bhumandal and above, and below Bhumandal. Bhumandal is like a disk, which is in its diameter like 500 million yojanas. Is a disk. And the sun is hovering above the disk. Because sun is above the disk, it means there is no sunlight below the disk. So all other 7 planetary systems are below this Bhumandala. Bhumandala, and the one corner is Bharatvarsha. Bharatvarsha means island, Bharatvarsha, and the corner of Bhumandala. So there is no sunlight. Now traditionally, how time was measured? Time was measured through the movements of the sun and moon. How do you understand the time? Through the movement of sun and moon. Now there is no movement of sun and moon because there is no sunshine and moonshine. Which means 2 things it implies. First, the time is inconspicuous in the lower planetary system. If the time is not present, you don't have the measuring facility for time because time is measured according to the movement of the sun. Now, when you cannot witness the movement of the sun, you don't know time, which means it is completely dark. Either the place will be completely dark, or as Prabhupada writes in certain places, Nagmanis, the effulgence of the Nagmani lights up the lower planetary systems. So either it's going to be either dark or either light. There is no sunset, sunrise, moonset, moonrise. There is nothing like that. So if you say, Prabhuji, you say spiritual world, no time. Atala, Vitala, Patala, no time. Where should I go? Is my question to all of you. Where would you like to go? Because time is a cause of fear. Because through the movement of the sun, you get to know the day has completed, right? Sunrise means beginning of the day. Sunset means end of the day. This was a basic understanding. If you go to the Konark temple, right? The Konark temple in Odisha, so nicely they have the sun movements indicating what time of the day would it be. Through the reflection, there is a system. If you have gone to Konark temple, when the sunlight falls on that system, through that, it will indicate what time of the day, and it is completely accurate. Is there, I have gone personally seen that. So, what was the point I was making? Yeah, so there is the time is not present. If the time is not present, now the point is the time is what induces fear. With every sighting, like this is a very beautiful verse that comes here, na? in the second canto only. What is that? With the every rising and the setting of the sun, the person loses his life. You know, Udyanastam Chayan Asahu. Udyanastam, with the rising and setting, Aso means sun. With the rising and setting of the sun, living entity is losing his life. So in the lower planetary system also, you don't have any experience. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, the lower planetary systems have far much more opulence and sense enjoyment than the heavenly planets. Because in heavenly planets, at least you have a fear of time because the time is going away. In the lower planetary system, you don't have any experience. So even something similar like this, where there's time is inconspicuous, is present in this world. But why not go to lower planetary systems? Well, there's no godly people. They're all demonic people. And the death there is very painful. Now, Parikshit Maharaj knew 7 days is going to pass away. Now, all of us know we are growing old. Now, there you never know. And suddenly you die. You getting it? So, what is more shocking and painful, to know you're going to die or to die suddenly? The more shocking and painful is drop dead suddenly. Because you have no idea when I'm going to die. At least we, in this world we have. Therefore, it is said to be lower planetary system. Why? Because there you cannot practice Krishna consciousness. Because in this life, in this world, at least I know I'm growing old. I should take to Vanaprastha. I should take sannyas ashram. There is no sannyas Vanaprastha. And don't imagine they being brahmacharis in the lower planetary system. So therefore, it is abominable for that reason. Anyways, let's continue. Krishna Chandra.
In the material world, so-called happiness is the result of one's own work. One can become rich man by dint of one's own hard labor. And there are always fear and doubts as the duration of such acquired happiness. But in the kingdom of God, no one has to endeavor to attain a standard of happiness. Happiness is the nature of the spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Vyasyan. The spirit is by nature full of happiness. Happiness in spiritual nature always increases in volume with a new phase of appreciation. There is no question of decreasing the bliss. Such unalloyed spiritual bliss is nowhere to be found within the orbit of the material universe, including Janaloka planets, or for that matter, the Maharloka or Satyaloka planets, because even Lord Brahma is subject to the law of fruitive actions and the law of birth and death. It is therefore stated here, Durataya, or in other words, spiritual happiness in the eternal kingdom of God cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis who are eligible to be promoted to the planets beyond the region of heaven. Or the greatness of the Supreme Lord is so great that it cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis, but such happiness is factually attained by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord by his divine grace.
Hare Krishna. So I'll pause the discussion here for today. It's already 9:15. And if you all would be interested, then we can have a detailed discussion on Ekpad and Tripad Vibhuti, just to understand what is this material world and spiritual world. So next 4 verses going to talk about that, starting with this verse, where there will be detailed discussions. So far, what we learn about this Ekpad and Tripad Vibhuti is about the nature of the material world and the spiritual world, the problems with the material world and the transcendental situation of the spiritual world. And we kind of understood where we should be aiming for. But the big question still remains unanswered. That will be answered from 2 verses from now. Who can get to go to the spiritual world? Who can get to go to spiritual world? It might sound discouraging, it might sound encouraging. We'll see that what Prabhupada writes. But it's not an easy journey. It's just not going to be a cakewalk. Somehow I finish my 16 rounds every day, and Hari Bol, at the end of the life, there's an agreement signed, I'll go back to Godhead. No, there's no agreement signed like this. The agreement signed is, if you follow what Guru has said, then agreement becomes valid. Agreement is valid till the time we abide by the instructions of Guru. And then in that part of agreement also, the condition is, you have to stand on your feet on your own. Stand on your feet means you should be able to become mature by the practice of Krishna consciousness. You have to make your decisions on your own. Of course, you may take guidance, but of course, guidance cannot be available. So you have to make your decision. Make your decision according to dharma, what dharma indicates. Stand on your feet. Therefore, Prabhupada says in the first canto, right? Everyone has to fly his own plane. The training is given as long as the plane is on the plane is on the runway. But when it has taken off the runway, then you have to fly, which means you have to stand on your feet. At the end of the life, it is you and I, individual, who have to remember Krishna. We may have the fortune, like of Parishad Maharaj, like that of Srila Prabhupada, and many other devotees, like his Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and many others who had the opportunity to be surrounded by the devotees, to be reminded again and again to remember Lord Shri Krishna. We may have that opportunity, we may not that have an opportunity. So agreement holds true as long as we abide by the instructions of Guru. And any manipulation in the agreement will take us to different destination, not of spiritual world, of material world. Not necessarily we end up in the spiritual world, we end up in the material world. Therefore, Prabhupada said most of the follows, first life, the next life would be in some heavenly planets. So that will come in the 2 verses from now. So again, I don't want to sound discouraging. When I read for the first time, I was like, oh Baba, बहुत कम chances है. Seems to be difficult. But no problem. We'll give our best try. We'll give our best try. एक try मारते हैं, एक lifetime 100% try करेंगे, 100% नहीं होगा तो 80% try करेंगे, but try तो मार के रहेंगे. क्या जाता है? कुछ नहीं तो at least ऊपर तो जाएंगे ना, right? You know, as Lord Shri Krishna says when Arjuna asks what happens to these yogis, advanced practitioner and not advanced in the 6th chapter. So we will be progressive nonetheless. But what to say of those who prematurely give it up, who don't want to take this fight? It's a fight against Maya. Who, see, you may say, Prabhuji, no, I am not going to fight. You don't fight, then you get butchered by Maya. So there is no option of not fighting. Understand? You don't understand. You are in a situation where there is no option of not fighting. There is no option I will be defensive. There is no defense. There is no defense strong enough to avert Maya. You will be only butchered. And we are already getting butchered. So many lifetimes you got butchered. So best defense is offense. That is should be the aim of life. हरी बोल, मैं rights की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. You know, somebody should not make a clip out of it and say, देखो हरे कृष्णा वाला क्या कर रहा है, लोगों को सारा है. This is not the point. The point here is, give up, try. Let's fight with Maya. करना है ना. And we are not alone in the fight. We are along with the Vaishnavas, we are along with our Guru, we are along with the whole Vaishnava community. So when you go at the time of fire sacrifice, when you accept the beads from your spiritual master, that time the whole Devatas, the whole community of Devatas are there with you. Agni is there, Indra is there, Surya is there, Vayu is there, Varun is there, and all the whole Vaishnava assembly is there, the whole Guru Parampara is there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu is there, Tulsi Devi is there, Vrinda Devi is there, everyone is there. But the only thing is, we should remember it, that they are there. We should not forget that they are not there. Everyone is there. Now imagine if they are there, still I will not fight. How is it possible? Then we have to fight. And it's a head-on collision. And Maya's attack becomes more fierce when somebody takes shelter of a strong party than Maya. Because for her, it's a big threat. Now somebody is already weaker, you don't want to pay attention because it's not worthy of attention. Right? So before coming to Krishna consciousness, we were not even worthy of attention of Maya. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, because we have taken shelter of somebody who is superior to Maya, we have become too much worthy of our attention. And that is not good attention. It is not good to come in attention of Maya. But what to do? If we have to fight our way out of this world, we would by default become worthy of attention. Worthy of attention because we have such a big backing. So now Maya is worried. अरे ये बदमाश मेरे हाथों से निकल के भागने की कोशिश कर रहा है. And we have a head-on collision. And the classic example of head-on collision was between Haridas Thakur and Maya Devi at the dead of the night. Maya Devi came. May Lord never ever put us in such a situation. well, Lord will never test us. अपनी situation बहुत ही हल्की है. Maya Devi is not needed for Kali Yuga Jivatmas, you know. But for Haridas Thakur, as an example is set, head-on collision. The devotee becomes a worthy attention. So Maya Devi personally came to trap Haridas Thakur. But when Haridas Thakur had a realization of such a strong backing, they said, no, I'm going to chant. You can wait. Once my round is complete, then we'll think about it. So अपने संग नरसिम्हा देव बोलकर भाग जाना. हाँ, ये मत बोला chant सुनो. Let me finish my rounds, madam. I'll entertain you afterwards. Jai Narasimha, Jai Narasimha, Jai Narasimha. Turn around 180 degrees. Bhao. You know, that is our protection. Anyway, jokes apart. Subject matter was such, it kind of became like a brahmachari class. But I just wanted to focus on these things. So anyways, I mean, this is just spontaneous discussion we're doing. So we'll continue our discussion on this. Ek Pad and Tripad Vibhuti, as I said, very beautiful chapter, very, very important chapter. Purusha Sukta prayers. Purusha Sukta, because the prayers here, the first 17 verses, actually, these verses are quite similar in content, in meaning, to the original Purusha Sukta prayers. The Sanskrit is a little different. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his purports have given those verses for the original Purusha Sukta prayers, which are found in the Rig Veda, one of the ancient Vedic texts, where these prayers have been mentioned like that. So those 17 verses we have already discussed, and along with that, we discussed about the little bit of material world and the spiritual world. So today I have given you a presentation. You take me as your cosmic travel agent, where I've given you a presentation of a little bit of spiritual world. You get presentation of Swiss travel, Malaysia travel, Thailand travel. Unfortunately, it's all on this planet. Or maybe somebody may give you a presentation on Atala, Vitala, Sutala. Or somebody may give you a presentation on Indralok. Some part of this. So we are cosmic travel agents. Our cosmic agency. we take you across the cosmos. And that is what Prabhupada came in this world to take us beyond this cosmic world. Jagadru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Hare Krishna. Kisi ki koi comments, any tipperi, any clarification? By the way, is it going okay, or am I in my own rasa and I'm forgetting what the audience wants? I know we didn't complete our chapter. We didn't even complete it verses. We are on the 17th verse only, right? We didn't start it. 17th we read. 18th to shuru hoga. 18th pada. You know, we just discussed. So all those impersonalists who are sitting with their cameras on, can they become personalists by switching on the camera? So I understand who are these personalities sitting here. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just joking. I don't mean that. Because your cameras are off. That's the reason I just gave that comment to agitate you to switch on the cameras. Okay. Yes. Okay, thank you. I get to see Tyag Chaitanya Prabhu. Seeing you after a long time.
No, I have been here every time. It's just that because I'm using my mobile.
Oh, okay.
So if I switch on my camera, then it runs off and
battery. Correct.
Yeah.
Sure. Understood.
So I'm so sorry. Actually, I'm always with you.
No. I'm happy to see you.
Thank you.
If you see, I'm coming for this class only because Krishna Chandra Prabhu is there. He's the one who is the most sincere student of this class. He's always there before time. And because he's there, I'm coming week after week. Although my schedules are becoming very hectic. But I say, no, I'm going to go for Krishna Chandra Prabhu. So he's there always with his cameras on, either at home or either at office, wherever he is, he's there always.
That way you should come to Malaysia, Prabhu.
No, I'm happy in India. I have only one plan for a flight ticket back to home, back to God. No more flight taking now. Okay.
I've got a question, Prabhu.
Yes,
What is
Krishna.
the difference between Virat Rupa and universal form?
Sorry. Can you be a little louder, Krishna Chandra Prabhu?
Yeah. What is the difference between Virat Rupa and universal form?
What's the difference between what? Universal form, I got.
Yeah. Universal.
Virat Roop.
Yeah, Virat Roop and universal form.
No, they are same only. This is what is being discussed in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also.
Yeah.
Virat Roop or universal form is what was discussed. One thing about this form is this is not eternal form.
Okay.
Another meaning which is described, it is rather an imagined form.
Imaginary form. Okay.
Imaginary form in the sense is imagined in the sense of this whole world, because ultimately everything is resting on the Lord. As I said, Virat Rup we can also call as our prototype.
Okay.
Our existence have come from, our senses have come from him, like that. But it is imagined in that way. Sometimes it is mentioned some of the purpose, like that. Now, why it is temporary? Because it exists when the material universe exists. And when material universe ceases to exist, when everything merges back into the Mahavishnu's body, then the universe is not there, then the form is not there. Therefore, it is said to be temporary. Now, why this form is still important though? For Ashtanga Yogi, we already read in the second canto, first 2 chapters, for the neophyte sadhaka, for him to meditate on, because he had to put his dhyan on something. Dharana ashraya for that cannot be something which he cannot experience, which means Paramatma. So therefore, in his case, he meditates, he looks at this world and then realizes, he imagines. When you look at the mountains, remember the teeth of the bones of the Lord. When you look at the sun and moon, remember the eyes of the Lord. When you see the river, remember the veins of the Lord. Like that.
Okay.
Like that, he becomes more and more God conscious. That helps in his meditation. Just like for a devotee who plucks flower for garlands, what happens with him? The next time, wherever he sees a nice flower, he remembers Shri Radha Krishna. Oh, this flower looks so beautiful as a garland to the deities. So this is how the consciousness gets transformed. All right?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Mother Vasha, you have your hand up?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Dandas.
Prabhuji, why Bali Maharaj was pushed down to the lower system?
Yeah, I mean, wow.
He was a pious person. Yeah.
I don't know. This is a kind of a question for me, also a little mystery for me also. I mean, in the case of Bali Maharaj, one thing we know for sure, that the Lord is there as his doorkeeper.
Yeah.
He is always there with him for that reason. Now, why is he there? Because he's still the king of demons, so therefore he's there in Sutala. I believe he's in Sutala. He's the king of the Sutala, so he's there for that reason. Now, one thing is just like Lord Shiva says to Parvati in the 4th canto, right? What is that? The very famous shloka, Chintamani. Oh, sorry, Chittaketu Pasan, 6th canto actually. Get me that green book. It's kept on the table. The very famous shloka, Swarga Pavarga Narkeshu Apitulyatsa Samadarshina. What's the first line? ठीक है. Anyway, Swarga Pavarga Narkeshu. The point here is Lord Shiva tells Parvati, the glories of Vaishnava is such, they don't give a damn about where they are. They're in the I'll just tell you. Narayana para sarve na kutashana bibhyati Swarga Pavarga Narkeshu Api Tulyata Darshana. 6th canto 17th chapter verse number 28. Narayana para sarve, those who are surrendered, para sarve, fully sheltered to Narayana, na kutashana bibhyati, at any point of time, bibhyati, they are not fearful. Why? Swarga, apavarga. Apavarga means beyond this material world. Swarga, or the heavenly planets. Narkeshu, and the hell. Apitulyata darshinaha, they see everything with an equal vision. For a pure devotee of the Lord, spiritual world, planets, and Narkalok is all one. Why? Because at all times he's chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. From that absolute point of view, it really doesn't matter where the devotee is. This is Lord Shiva telling Mother Parvati. All right?
Okay. Probably another thing comes to my mind is that we consider Brahmaji as the creator, that God gave him the power to do this. But in the last lecture, I heard about Shankara, so I got a little confused.
What's your confusion?
Confusion is it Brahmaji or Shankar?
No, it's Brahmaji. I gave an analogy, right? The project owner, the landowner, and construction engineer. It is Brahma. So what is happening? The Shiva and Parvati, that is happening before Brahma. That is not part of the universal creation. That is before the universal creation.
I see.
So that is at the stage of Mahat Tattva. You know,
Okay.
the Shambhu has not yet appeared in the universe because Brahmaji has not appeared, na? So the Shiva that we know, which we generally worship, of course, now this becomes a little interesting because Shiva has many names and accordingly he's known. He's not Shiva, he's not Shambhu, he's not Ashutosh, based on different pastimes. But Shiva Lok, Kailash, is not of this world. Is across the Viraj river, at the bank of the Viraj river, towards the spiritual world side. There is a Viraj, where Shivji and Parvati eternally resides. And then in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned Sankarshan expands himself as a Shiva. And from that Shiva comes Rudra in this world. Now, why Vishnu, as I discussed in the previous class, for the purpose of destruction. Now, first thing, purpose of destruction. Second, somebody has to come in contact with Prakriti. Therefore, it is said Vishnu never comes in contact with Prakriti. But how union is happening? How would you not come in contact with Prakriti? So that glance is Shambhu, who comes and unite, not in the physical sense that we know of, but therefore I spoke about whole Shivling. Shivling is not only Shivji, Shivling is Shivji and Parvati. Shivling is not Shivji, Shivling is a, in other words, you can say it's an intercourse. There's a yoni, the linga, and it's like a male genital and female genital. That is what is being depicted there. The grosser we are into consciousness, to that degree we'll see it that way. But that Shivling is identification or reminder of how this creation have happened. Therefore, many consider Shivji to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because creation have come from him. He is the one who inserted all the living entity into the womb of Prakriti. So many consider for that he is. Therefore, in Shiv Puran, Shivji is glorified for this particular thing. He impregnated Prakriti, na? But the point is, he is also, in Bhagavatam we learn, is a glance of the Lord.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that.
Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you everyone for joining in. I hope none of you are disappointed I didn't finish the chapter. I might take 1 or 2 more sessions for this chapter. I'll focus next week more about spiritual worlds, and then we'll go to the last section from 34th verse onwards, where Brahmaji begins to speak and nobody can know Krishna. We'll speak about that.